Welcome to Blend's Localization Leader series, where we interview industry leaders who are paving the way for advances in localization through their work. In today's episode, we're joined by Glovo's head of UX content, Stefania Russo. Glovo is a growing Spain-based delivery app, serving customers in Europe, Western Asia, and Africa. Hi, Stefania. It's so nice to have you. So can you start just by telling us a little bit about your career path and how you ended up in your current position as the head of UX content at Glovo?
Yeah, thanks. First of all, thanks for having me here. We're really happy to be here with you. So my career started many years ago, way too many. So I started as an in-house translator in a software company, like around 18 years ago. And there, after some time, I moved on the language service provider side, where I worked for around 7 years between TransPerfect and Accolade. After that, I came back to the client side and worked at FedEx logistics company as a senior localization specialist, focusing on product and marketing localization, also implementing translation management system, and working with all internal stakeholders there. After some years there, then I moved to Booking.com. My title there was a language process lead, where I was in charge of implementing a translation management system and in general the language streamlining processes thanks to language technology. So that was my focus, was more on the tech side of localization. And around 3 years ago, I came back to Barcelona and joined Glovo as the manager, the head of localization and UX writing team. And here I am, still at Glovo and enjoying it.
Amazing. So let's hear a little bit, I guess, more about Glovo and your role there. What role would you say that localization actually plays at Glovo? How is your team or department structured?
Yeah. So at Glovo, where the localization and so we are called the UX content team, so localization and UX writing, and we are part of the UX organization within the product department. So in my time at Glovo, my main objective has been trying to elevate the role of localization and content in general at Glovo. As you can imagine, content in general is not considered as an important craft like product management, design, or development. But of course, I firmly believe that, of course, content plays a key role in the overall user experience. So what I always try when I have to pitch for the importance of localization, the example that I usually give is like, imagine an application without words. So it can have the best features, the latest design, but users cannot really interact with it. So in general, the role of localization take care of the business as usual, which means making sure that all the necessary piece of content are translated and localized in the supported language. But beyond that, in order to elevate that role of localization, we have always dedicated time and defined specific OKRs to work on initiatives that are key for the business and the company, especially in the internationalization point of view and the UX localization side. So, and during these years, we try to put ourselves as the guardians of the international users, because as you can imagine, everyone always think in English. English users interacting with English content. So we have always tried to shift that focus. At the beginning, for instance, my team was just involved when there were issues. Oh, this content is too long. Now, I have to say, after some not only educational work, but real collaboration, hands-on collaboration with design, product, tech, and all the rest of our stakeholders, we can really see that whenever there is an important feature being developed, then we are considered like a stakeholder, and we are involved in design reviews, in the ideation session, whenever there is like super important feature to develop. So yeah, working on it. It's not perfect, like as everything, but I think that in the past 3 years, the positioning of the localization team has improved considerably. Yeah.
To be like integrated actually into the process and working with product and design, and it's like that's the dream. Awesome. So I know you've already kind of touched on it a little bit, but like you said, it can be sort of difficult to gain the recognition of localization's importance, and why does localization need to be included, throughout the process, and why do we even need localization? So, do you have any other tips for localization managers that want to demonstrate the value of localization?
Yes. So the first thing, one thing that I actually did at the very beginning was gathering data, because when you are in a tech environment, if you don't speak the same language of managers, then of course you are not considered as crucial and important at higher levels. So the first thing I was gathering data around the amount of users that were using our products in English versus other languages. And when you actually have those numbers, that of course took a long time to gather, and because no one was actually looking at those numbers, when you finally manage to get those dashboards, then and you show to higher upper management that those numbers, English versus all other
Yeah.
users, then of course, then they start realizing about the impact that your work is having on the product and the business. So another tip that I found useful for myself was doing like a mind map of all the stakeholders. We interact with all sorts of stakeholders, from marketing, brand, local teams. So really localization is a very central point across all the departments. And what I did was basically go and talk to them, saying, okay, what are your challenges? What is your main frustration around content? Just to make sure that translation and localization was not considered that black hole where you send something and something comes up localized and you don't know exactly what happens. So, and then of course, what everyone talks about is making sure that when you defined OKRs for the year or the semester to come, we always need to make the effort to link our localization OKRs to the business one. It's of course a challenge because localization contributes to literally everything. Every feature that develop is going to be localized, but at least it's important to find the couple of initiatives that are linked to importance ones for the business, for the product, and then making sure that you update upper management constantly with the results, with what you are contributing to. Whenever there is an important initiative, usually you are going to have monthly business review or quarterly ones. And if you are contributing to that, making sure that you can also represent your craft in order to gain that visibility and credibility that will really help you. Because at the end of the day, what we are trying to do as localization leaders, trying to make sure that the rest of the business sees us as sees localization as a growth lever. Without a
Right.
good localization, you couldn't be having your business in all the other international markets. So, and elevating the user experience, because we care about all those users that are in all the countries that you want to make business. And of course, last but not least, always, I have to say that usually localization teams are smaller in size. So it's important to always do that kind of education work with your colleagues and talking, for instance, we organized several lightning talks with developers, with designers, a small workshop, just to just basically make sure that some basic concept can get through.
Yes.
And of course, well, the daily work is where actually where you can show the impact that you are making. So that would be my tips. There are many more, of course, and we have to always continue. So it's a never-ending job.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's why it's, I guess, exciting and it's dynamic. You're always learning, things are always changing. Um, but no, I think those were great tips. And I know that education definitely matters when it comes to localization. And, anyways, most companies are almost global by default. Like if you're doing something online or an application, uh, people are also everywhere and speak different languages. And so if you want to cater to as many people as possible, then I feel like all of those different stakeholders and parties need to be aware of localization anyways, you know? So it's important that content teams and localization teams are the kind of the advocates. So
Definitely.
yeah, it's great advice. Um, besides, you know, your team structure and sort of how you go about localization at Glovo, have there been any markets in your career that you found, you know, really challenging to break into for any reason?
Well, there are always challenges with different type of market because maybe because it really depends on the product or
Mhm.
service that you're trying to provide to the country. So I would say that I can make an example, a recent example about Glovo. So for instance, we last year we launched a machine translation service for our product catalog, meaning that we can machine translate the restaurant menus or the grocery shopping lists
Mhm.
into the language of the device or your phone language. So, because usually that content is only available in the language of the country because it's
Right.
directly uploaded by partners. So for this project, we it actually started because it was customer number one pain point for countries like Armenia and Georgia, because these countries had a higher number of expats, so they really couldn't read local language. Armenia and Georgia, they are
Yeah.
not so common. So
Yeah.
we actually developed this whole initiative with these two priority countries, and then it's already live globally. But it's been they are challenging countries because of course they what we found difficult beyond the language that is not so common also for machine translation. We really, with our local teams there, we really had to demonstrate the impact over and over again. Like, okay, thanks to these features, we are increasing the number of orders in the country, contributing to the improvement in sales, etc. So it was really a constant demonstration of, okay, these are the results of month over month. So we can actually we could be considered successful. So it's I would say it's still a work in progress, but have been particularly challenging countries.
I have a similar experience just living in Tel Aviv. We've had some of the like delivery services that I've used, I will translate into English, and it's like a machine translation, and it can sometimes make, you know, no sense. So
Yeah, it
it's a
requires
bit
a
of a
lot of.
running joke.
Yeah, there are challenges also because, for instance, it's Georgia or Armenian. There's only spoken in those countries. There is not much material
Right,
data available for language models. So
right,
translating them into English, it's the easiest part, but also into Russian because Russian is also a language that is highly spoken in those countries. So those
yeah.
are very challenging language combination in order to gain the trust from the country. Then it's not easy. It required a lot of effort, but yeah, we are on the good
But you,
path.
yeah.
Yes.
Amazing. And do you have any advice for global brands that want to build a localization team for the first time?
Oh, wow. So I don't think I'm saying anything new here, but I would really love to see global brands that are actually thinking to expanding their customer base, their reach, to think about a localization in a strategic way. Don't
Mhm.
hire like a translator or a project manager at first just to make sure that you close the gap. You need that content
Right.
translated as soon as possible without actually thinking much about it. Would be nice to hire, of course, a translator or a project manager. It's really needed, but also a leader that can really talk the same language of the management and work together with the upper management in establishing localization has really a pivotal role in the expansion into other markets. That would be probably the dream that we all in the localization industry have. So maybe one day it happens. I know
Yeah.
that there are companies that are really valuing that, but of course a big amount of other companies that's just trying to fill the gap, and
Yeah.
that's it. So I wish that the amount of companies that think about localization as a growth lever and in a strategic way that will increase over time.
Absolutely. It's definitely the dream, but I do think it's happening more and more.
Yeah.
I think people are more aware now. Uh, Anyways, thank you so much, Stefania. We can move into our uh, sort of fun rapid fire questions to get to know you a little bit better.
Okay.
So, what is your favorite language?
Spanish. I'm biased. I've been living here in Spain for many years, so Spanish.
Okay, it's a beautiful language. And your favorite localization tool?
Hmm.
Can be
I would
anything.
say that yeah, I pretty like phrase. Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Okay,
far
nice.
my favorite one.
And your favorite place that you've traveled to?
Sweden, and I'm actually looking forward to visit Denmark this summer. So I really like the Nordic countries.
Wow, nice. Really nice. And the best localization advice you've ever received?
Always be open to change and see and look at challenges as opportunities to learn, and of course try to break that localization silo and go and talk to your stakeholders. Yeah.
Great advice. And the most successful market you've invested in?
Connected to what were discussing before, then I would say Georgia or Armenia. It's been a really interesting project in the past year. So,
Amazing. And what would you say is your localization nightmare?
oof. There are a few.
Too
So,
many.
yeah, maybe the typical sentence like, oh, we need to make this content more catchy or friendly, or yeah, local teams
Mhm.
don't like the translation, they sound robotic and they have to edit a lot. So it's a recurrent
Uh-huh.
nightmares.
Yeah, it's probably quite common.
Yeah.
Uh, and who do you have anyone who you'd say is your localization role model?
I really like Natalie Skelly's content, and
Mhm.
because I find it super inspiring and always
Yes.
talking about localization in a broader way. So yeah, totally Natalie
Yeah, she's
Kelly.
great. And lastly, which brand is your localization crush? Any brand whose
Yeah.
localization you kind of admire?
Well, I think if I say Airbnb and Spotify, that's really, yeah, some brands that are doing it a great job over there. So yeah,
Yeah,
always look at them as an inspiration.
inspiration. Amazing. So that's it. That's it though for all our kind of rapid fire questions. Just I guess before we go, for everyone listening, are there any localization projects that you have coming up at Glovo that you want us to kind of look out for, or
Oh,
people?
well, so the past year has been pretty intense with our machine translation process. So I think this year we are continuing to improve the solution and for the product and for the machine translation itself. So yes, we will be focusing on that for the rest of the year.
Okay, great. So we look forward to seeing, I guess, Glovo's continued growth. So thank you so much again, Stefania, for taking the time to speak with me and answer all my questions. And it was
No, thanks
really,
a lot.
yeah, it was really, really interesting hearing your perspective and your advice and everything. So I really appreciate it.
No, thanks. Thank you for having me.